This is Empty the Bench with Tom Albano.
Scottie Pippen was the right-hand man, and now, regardless of what you think with Michael Jordan or who you pick in the MJ LeBron debate, you're going to look at your right-hand man, person you were the sidekick to, and just go, screw him.
Nick Morgasen.
You let him ref after he decides to go on Twitter and be a troll? I mean, you would think, the NBA would have these rules in place, or at least, checking on their guys, hey, don't you dare, no, don't tweet. You would think they'd get a 25,000-volt shock every time they went to reach for Twitter.
Empty the Bench starts now.
Depending on what happens, Adam Silver or Bob Myers could end up at a...
Guangdong Tigers. Ni hao! Ni hao! Ni hao!
All right, here we go. I just scared the crap out of Hank. Welcome to episode 187 of Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. I'm Nick Morgasen. Wait a minute. That's not Tom Albano. Wait, Hank Indictor?
Surprise!
Hey, what are you doing here? I thought that was Tom on the other side.
I mean, you could have mistaken two Yankees / Ranger fans with glasses, albeit my beard's much heavier. But, I mean, I figured I'd crash your little party this time around. So, why not?
All right, so here we go. Follow the show on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at ETB Sports. Follow us on social media at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, youtube.com/ETB Network, to find shows like Empty the Bench, Game On, Fruity Cereal, The Hearst Show, a bunch of other shows along the way as well. Also, make sure you like and subscribe to all our social media pages. Make sure you hit the big red button down below now. They keep changing the color of that button. It was gray, it was black, now it's red. I lost track. But yes.
It's always a red button to me.
Oh, is it a red button? Well, hey, it matches the color that's on the screen right now, if you're watching on the video side. By the way, like I said, youtube.com/ETB Network. Also, make sure you listen on all the audio platforms as well. So you got Acast, iHeart, Google, Amazon, Stitcher, Spotify. Basically, you can take us on the road and you can put us in your pocket if you feel like doing so. So make sure you do that as well. Also, for blogs, Hank, you've been busy on that front. You just had a blog on Lou Gehrig Day as well. And if I'm not mistaken, you had a hot take saying Lou Gehrig could be the best Yankee, right? Or over Babe Ruth, right?
Yes, at least in my opinion.
So I kind of agree with you, by the way. We talked about this the other day, that I don't think that's a bad take. But to check that blog out, along with other blogs that are coming up, Paul Lombardi from the 3&D, who just joined our network, by the way. I was telling Hank before that Paul has been a really welcome addition this week, considering all the stuff we've had to do to fill schedules.
I'll say.
But etbpodcast.com, you want to find blogs and other information. Also, follow him at RangerHanky96, at myself at Morgasen Radio. All right. A lot to get to this week. We had to move the show around also because of the NBA Finals. So that's why you're seeing us on Fun Friday as opposed to Thursday. So you kind of reacted to this on Game On already. But I'm going to get to the whole PGA Tour, LIV Golf, DP World Tour merger. We'll get to that. Also, Zion Williamson and porn stars. Just keep that in your head. We're going to talk about that. I know Hank's making a strange face at me, but I had to explain it to him before we came on here. Also, ton of other NBA news. Is Kyrie recruiting LeBron James to the Dallas Mavericks? I don't think so. I think that's a horrible choice. Also, the Suns and Chris Paul. Could Chris Paul be waived by the Phoenix Suns? That's a whole nother thing we'll get into. Also, we might have another Adam Silver slip up.
Why am I not surprised?
It might have to do with John Morant. I'll just leave it at that. Also, NFL news, since the NFL is going to be coming back in the next couple months. Another gambling investigation being done of a certain player betting on his own football games.
I'm sorry. What?
So we'll get to that as well. Also, DeAndre Hopkins and his free agency quest now that he was waived by the Cardinals. We'll get into all that. And we'll finish off with some baseball with some sad news. Some people don't look at it as sad news. More frustration of a certain pitcher probably done for his career. You and I can talk about this pitcher because we grew up with this pitcher.
Mm-hmm. I think it's sad news, by the way. But
it's sad news, but he just couldn't stay healthy. He falls under the category of pitcher that was way overhyped, but never could reach the hype.
Well, I'll get to this later, but he was overhyped for good reason. I mean, after all, he had great stuff.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but he just got hurt. We'll do it at the end because I saved it for last, but just think Mark Pryor. That's the way I think of it.
I was thinking more along the lines of Kerry Wood, but yes.
Well, in that same category, Mark Pryor, Kerry Wood, very hyped, got hurt. Their careers. Kerry Wood lasted longer than Mark Pryor. If I'm not mistaken, Kerry Wood was a Yankee at one point, right?
Yes, 2010.
I
he
never
was
understood
a trade
that.
deadline acquisition. I remember that very well. He was on Cleveland, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was a very odd trade acquisition, but we'll leave the baseball for later. All right, let's get underway. PGA Tour, LIV Golf, DP World Tour merge, causing major shock. Yes, I put that in all caps for good reason. Now, the update, since you guys did this on Game On, Rory McIlroy hopes LIV Golf is going away, and Greg Norman, who's the CEO of LIV, says it's not going anywhere. So we have opposing shots being taken. Now, you've already reacted. Let me react off the top for when this news happened with the merge. The PGA Tour and LIV just were not seeing eye to eye. LIV, obviously, for people who don't know, is backed by the Saudi Public Interest Fund, which is an endless money pit. And I mean that quite literally. Like, you could literally, it's like going down a black hole and it never ends. Basically, all you're going to hear is, that's all you're going to hear coming out of that black hole, because all there is money.
So, in other words, it's Mr. Krabs' favorite place on Earth.
Yes. For most people who don't understand that, if you didn't grow up with SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs, all he cared about was money. Just for context.
Pretty much.
So, this news comes out of the blue. Admit this, because I think you and I are on the same page. No one had an idea that this was happening. No one. Except for the PGA. And Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the sport.
Nick, let me kind of repeat what I said on Game On a few days ago. When I got the text from you and I got the news alert about it on my phone, I almost dropped it and broke it.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how shocked I was. And
it's a crazy story.
Nick, you know damn well I am not the least bit into golf.
Right.
So for me to get shocked over that says a lot.
And there's a heck of a lot of other issues involved. I was telling Hank this as we were preparing for the show over the last day or so. So Commissioner Jay Monahan came out, and this was prior sound that I put out on a TikTok. If you want to go check it out at ETB Network, also on YouTube Shorts as well. I found the sound where Jay Monahan was talking to Jim Nantz, who also does golf for CBS.
Hello, friends.
I love when he does that, by the way. I love his signature. But so he was basically saying that anyone who goes to the LIV Golf Tour essentially does not care about 9/11. And I thought that was a bold statement back then. I even thought that was a bold statement back then. Because who are you to say what people's opinions are and what they believe? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for one, if he wanted to just voice his displeasure about the LIV Golf Tour, I would have had no problem with that. But because you made that dopey statement, basically condoning people saying they're against 9/11. Now, let's be clear, like I said before. the LIV Golf Tour is run by the Saudi Public Interest Fund and by the Saudi government. So I totally get where he's coming from, but he said it out of context. For people to say that they dislike, or not dislike, that's the wrong word, that they're disrespecting 9/11 because they're going to play on a stupid golf tour, that's where I have a problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's very, very overboard.
And that interview came back to bite him in the ass this week because look what happened. Now they merged. And now you're in a situation where everybody in the world, not just here in the U.S., around the world, heard the shockwaves when that news happened. And I swear to you that this sound probably happened when this story happened. Because nobody except the PGA Tour, the LIV, the LIV Tour, and the DP World Tour probably knew about this. And what's even worse is that the PGA Tour players were in the dark. What does that tell you about your organization that you didn't even tell your own players?
I'll tell you what I think it tells you about them. That they're a major sellout, and what's that sound effect I'm thinking about? Bingo.
Of course it's all about the money.
Yeah.
That's what's so frustrating about this, that you had lawsuits going against one another, pending litigations against one another.
Mm-hmm.
Phil Mickelson was suing the PGA because he wanted to play on the LIV Golf Tour, which is his right. And if you remember over the years, I know you're not a big golf fan. I'm not a huge golf fan, but I follow it. You see a lot of these guys play on multiple tours. You see them play on the PGA Tour and the European Tour. Never had an issue with that. But now when it becomes a moral/ethics problem, that's when all of a sudden it became a problem. I mean, and you know what? Rory McIlroy has balls. And I mean that in a positive way, because he came out and said that I want nothing to do with LIV. He was one of the players that was made an offer from LIV to come over. And he basically said, there's the door. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I mean, some of these guys, the amount of money that some of these guys got from the LIV Tour. Phil Mickelson, if I'm not mistaken, got $200 million from the LIV Tour. Dustin Johnson got over $150 million. Bryson DeChambeau got over $150 million.
Wasn't there a guy who made close to $800 million, or am I making that up?
So you guys talked about that on Game On, where Tiger Woods was offered $800 million.
Yes, that's it. Now I remember.
And by the way, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Where does $800 million magically show up? Can you think of a place where $800 million besides the lottery shows up?
Yes, Mr. Krabs' mattress.
My point is, $800 million doesn't just fall from the sky. It's an endless money pit that this Saudi Public Interest Fund... And by the way, there's all these people, even on the media side, because the Saudi Public Interest Fund for LIV has been paying the media to do ad reads and all this stuff. I was listening to Colin Cowherd with Andrew Marchand from The Post, who covers the media. And Colin was saying that he was offered six-figure deals to do ad reads for LIV. Six-figure deals. Jeez. And you know what he did? He turned it down. You know why he turned it down?
Why?
Ethics. He doesn't want his name associated with Saudi Public Interest Fund. It doesn't look good. Now, the one thing he did say, and I understand why he said it, if my company was offered $10 or $20 million, how do you turn it down? That's a lot of money. I don't know. What are your thoughts on, is there a line for morality in that situation for you when it comes to money?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely a historic thing in the sense of two like golf leagues merging, but at the end of the day, the whole way this all happened, it's a pretty bad look. And the fact that you have so many guys being left in the dark about it, and then when you had the PGA, like, pretty much, they were trying to blackball these guys. No, they said, "Oh, we want no part of you," and I can totally understand why, because like if they're having their name associated with a Saudi Arabian company, like, that's not a good look.
Bingo, you hit it right on the nose there.
At the end of the day, now all of a sudden they're merging with this company. Nick, there is so many things, or I'm sorry, there are so many things wrong with this on so many different levels that I frankly don't know where to begin.
I mean,
I love that meme or that GIF that you posted on Twitter of Adam Sandler shouting,
"Oh, Happy Gilmore, go to your home." Yeah.
Both of us love that movie, by the way.
Yeah, we do. And by the way, the PGA Tour is going to end up under a rock if they don't stop with all of the nonsense that they're doing. I haven't even gotten... I mean, I don't know. Did I mention already the 9/11 stuff that Jay Monahan, or did I...
Oh, you did. And by the way, that was pretty bad. Like, him using 9/11, and I completely agree with you. You're spot on with this, because if he had just said, like, oh, their morals are in the wrong place with them, I don't think you or I would have had an issue with this. But for him to bring up 9/11, and there are plenty of people who are still suffering as a result of it, whether it be from related illnesses or whether there are families still grieving the loss of a loved one, for him to bring that up over a friggin' game like golf, not a good look.
I mean, for him to come out and talk about in the prior clip, which I've posted, that he had two families that he was related to from 9/11, and they lost, and two of them unfortunately died, two family members, one from each family. What were you trying to accomplish by saying that you're talking about 9/11? By the way, I appreciate the fact that he cares about 9/11 and all that. So let's not get that out of context or twisted, but
he was weaponizing it, Nick.
Yes,
what he was doing.
That exactly, bingo. You just hit it, which was he was trying to use it as a weapon to take down the LIV Tour. And I hate to say this, but competition is actually good for the world of sports.
Yeah.
And sometimes, believe it or not, the PGA, like, if you think about all the other leagues, like in the NFL, and I think Paul did this great with you on Game On, talking about the USFL and the AAF or the XFL, which is kind of busted like 3 or 4 times now. Yeah. But my point is, there's different leagues. It's all in healthy competition, but what's always going to be number one? The NFL. Okay, same thing with golf. You have the PGA, you have LIV, you have the VP World Tour, you have the European World Tour. PGA is always going to be number one. Always. I don't care who you talk to. PGA will always be number one. But you just lost every ounce of credibility by merging. And that's the other headline that, for most people that watch this show, because this is the first time I'm getting to talk about it, they all came together and they're going to be called one entity. They haven't released the name yet. So whatever this is, you're going to have a PGA, a LIV Tour, and a DP World Tour that are all going to be merged under one house, essentially. And I just don't know. Everybody loses in this situation. Everybody loses. Because if the PGA just stayed the course, LIV eventually would have died. It wouldn't have survived. The only reason it would have stayed up was because of the endless fund of money. And that would have, and the Saudi Public Interest Fund would have had to make a decision at one point. Are we just going to keep throwing money away, or are we just not going to care? Unfortunately, billionaires that have money, they don't care. They're just willing to spend money because they just keep, it's like an endless generator. Like they have a cash machine in their pocket, essentially. So this can't end well. Jay Monahan came out the other day and tried to walk it back, which made it worse. And he tried to say, like, because someone from the Golf Channel essentially said to him, Do you care about the 9/11 families? Because all the 9/11 families are going after him now because of that statement he made way back when. So
as they should.
And they should. And you know what? He should be taken down as the commissioner of the sport. You know I'm tough on commissioners in all sports. I am. But I think this one I have a legitimate gripe that he should be fired as the commissioner of the PGA. Yeah. Because now I don't know if he was the one that officially made the decision or if there's people like above him that work on the business logistics. But he had to say he's the commissioner of the sport, for crying out loud. Like, someone needs to teach him PR. You know, when we were in school for broadcasting, one of the classes we had to take was like some type of PR class so that we knew what we were saying, and in case we had unless we said something stupid, we know how to handle it. Mm-hmm. Jay Monahan must have failed that class. He must have had Mr. Crocker because he got an F. Because he failed that one miserably. And there's no way to win this. No way. They could spin this a million times, and there's no way they're going to win. Both. And the weird part is, I told you this last week. Guess who's one of the main sponsors on the PGA Tour side now?
What?
The Saudi Public Interest Fund.
Guess where, Nick? Did you say spinning?
Yeah.
Guess what the PGA just did? And I wish Johnny were here because I think he would appreciate what I'm about to say. He spun the wheel and it landed on bankrupt.
Ah, good one. It's actually accurate, believe it or not.
And I wish we had the bankrupt sound effect too.
Hey, you just gave me a good idea to have a sound effect. But I just don't see. Apparently, two major sponsors, I don't know who they are, have dropped from the PGA Tour side since they made this merger. Mm-hmm. You're going to see more sponsors drop because they don't want to be associated with the Saudi Public Interest Fund. It looks bad. It looks bad that the Twin Towers were attacked on 9/11 by people from this country, and now we're associated with them. Why? Just because you wanted to line your pockets? I guarantee you Jay Monahan probably got a stiff payment from the Saudi Public Interest Fund to do this also. A lot of people got their pockets lined from this whole situation. How much do you think he probably got if you had to take a guess?
Oh, God. Probably like 200 billion. So I don't know.
Hundreds of millions, probably. And if he comes out and says that I got nothing, I'm going to call bullshit all the way.
Nick, do you know what I call that?
What?
Making a deal with the devil.
Agreed. 100%.
And I don't mean a certain team that plays at Mid-Entral Center.
But, all right, we'll move on. But I wanted to talk about this because this was crazy. Last thing I'll say is, like I said, Rory wanted to go away. I give him a lot of credit because he stuck to his guns with the PGA Tour and said, I want no part. I did forget one more thing, though, actually. So the other issue you have with the merger is the people who went to the LIV Tour, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, they all got paid by LIV Tour. And guess what this merger does?
What?
They're back on the PGA Tour. Think about that for a second. These guys got kicked out by the PGA Tour because they chose to play on the LIV Tour. But guess what? They're technically a PGA Tour member all over again. And think about the guys who turned down the money, because a lot of the big pros were offered money to go to LIV, and they turned it down for moral reasons. Phil Mickelson, back on the PGA Tour. What do you think?
You know what I have to say? And I've really been wanting to say this line. Congratulations, dickweeds!
Damn, I haven't heard that one in God knows how long.
Yeah, well, you know what? I had to revive it. I figured now was the right time for it.
I just and I'm getting frustrated because I'm reading all the different publications And the other weird issue, and you kind of, if you look back at the rules originally, when some of the players went off to the LIV Tour, those guys were allowed to play in the PGA Tour majors. If you remember that, right? You remember that they were allowed. You want to know why they were allowed to play in the majors?
Why?
Because they're not governed by the PGA Tour. Each major runs its own organization for the major.
Got it.
But that opened the door for LIV to be back and this merger to happen. It's all full circle, if you think about it. It's all about one thing. Money. All right. Now from the weird to the bizarre. So, porn star, and I'm probably going to botch this, but I think it's Moriah Mills, I think is her name, airs out Zion Williamson after girlfriend's pregnancy reveal. Now, I'm sure you had a chance to look at this by now when we got here, but Zion Williamson has been busy, no pun intended. He's had a bun in the oven, if you know what I mean.
You think, to say the least.
So, Zion Williamson has been in the news the past couple of days as I broke Hank. And so we find out Zion Williamson is being destroyed by this woman, this porn star, this adult actress, whatever you want to call her. There's no moral values here. Just call her a porn star.
By the way, Nick, I double-checked it. You got the name right.
Okay, good.
I literally just went on one of my million tabs that are open. I just checked it for you. You're welcome, America.
Yeah. But he's 29 years old. Now, I'll ask you this because you'll know this well. What happens to a male athlete that's 29 years old and is making millions of dollars? What do they like to do a lot of?
Partying, clubbing.
And then ending the night doing something.
Yeah. I think you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so apparently he was seeing this porn star, and she basically revealed all the dirty laundry on Twitter, quite literally. All the messages and tagging him and showing the messages from whatever messaging app that was. I have no idea what that was. And she's basically going after him because he just had a gender reveal with his, I guess, girlfriend number one, I guess if you want to call her that. And it's a whole thing. They fireworks go off when they do the gender reveal, and she goes nuts. Nuts. No pun intended. And basically, I just broke Hank again. I should have a Hank broken counter on this show.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you should see me when I'm listening to this show, how many times I get broken.
But this happens, and I have a folder. I took screenshots because this is crazy. And so maybe I'll put them in an edit or post, but she basically, I don't even know if I can read these. That's how bad they are. But she goes off on him saying dirty, disgusting things on Twitter. And she's complaining about the baby mom being a baby mom, or the baby mom that's going to be a baby mom. It's the whole thing. And she's complaining and showing messages that Zion wrote to her, like, I'm going to move you down to New Orleans so we can live together. I'm sorry, what? Yes, I stole the line.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Wow, all I can say is, what is it with these guys who are, like, wasting talent over stuff like this?
I just don't know. I barely knew about the story. Nico, who's our head of social media for the network, was the one who pointed it out for me. And I said, all of a sudden I saw his name trending. And what's the thing we always assume when we see a name trending on social media? Something bad happened.
Yup. And, yeah, that's about as disastrous as it gets. And, oh, man, imagine if Jerry Springer were alive to see this.
You
or
know what?
better yet, the Maury Show.
Which also got canceled, and Dr. Phil got canceled, but that's neither here nor there. But just going through the story, so Pelicans star Zion Williamson and girlfriend, and I'm going to botch this too, Akima, I think is her name, announced they're expecting a baby girl, posing a gender reveal video on social media, featuring the couple celebrating with loved ones. And then Moriah Mills, the porn star, claimed in a Twitter rant that she had sexual relations with Williamson as recently as the week before. Now,
Yikes.
why are you airing dirty laundry? I guess porn stars don't care. They just want attention. But this was like awful timing in every way, shape, or form.
All I can say is if it's true, then I guess you could say that he is a traveling man. See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
I kind of was making, for those of you who are too young to know about this, yes, I am referencing the Ricky Nelson hit song from the late 50s, early 60s. And, oh man, this harkens back, the days of, Wade Boggs with, Margot Adams, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. And unfortunately, it used to be the NFL that was the womanizing sport. Now it's the NBA. It's the NBA. The NBA has taken over as the womanizing sport.
Well, Nick, to be fair, there were womanizers in the NBA long before Zion. Cough, mailman.
No,
he delivered all right.
Oh, he delivered more than once.
Yeah.
The problem is his packages were broken and revealed. Anyway, I don't know what to make of this, and Zion has a lot of explaining to do. You know what I mean? Because he was hurt all last season. Now people are questioning his work ethic because he's too busy sleeping around with porn stars. I mean, I don't know. You can't discipline him. He didn't do anything technically. I mean, if you're talking about morally, then yes, he did something. But did he break a law? No. He didn't break a law, right?
Right.
Excuse me. So
getting aired out by a porn star, that's about as bad as it gets.
It's a bad reputational situation, then yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what it is with NBA athletes and getting into these situations. They never learn, do they? Well, go back to the story we covered. I don't know how long ago that we talked about that story with Mailman. How long ago was that? Would you say?
That was back in the 80s when all those incidents in question happened. One of them happened when he was fucking 17 years old, and then there was another time where he was being sued for child support because apparently he had another, I guess I'm going to politely call it, episode with a woman, and he claimed that however much she was suing him for child support was quote unquote too much, which is bullshit considering how much he was making at that time. Now,
if I remember correctly, wasn't one of the incidents when he was 20 and the girl was 14?
Something along those lines. If I remember correctly.
But this can't end well. The Pelicans have to be throwing a fit behind the scenes, seeing this stuff. I mean, what do you do if you're the Pelicans organization? You have a PR nightmare on your hands. What do you do? Well, tell me what you think. What they need to do here?
I'd like to say they tried to trade him, but I feel like that may be taking the easy way out. And you really don't want to because he's practically the face of your franchise, and find some serious way to discipline. But honestly, I don't know, because at the end of the day, there is no manual that says how to deal with your player who slept with a porn star.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one. Sorry, that's not in our handbooks.
Am I wrong?
I'm agreeing with you. That was the joke. It's not. Yeah. It's not in our. Or what's that stupid book that you learn everything, the to-do book or whatever they call that? Making Things Work or whatever they call that dumb book.
How to dealing with players who had sexual episodes with porn stars for dummies.
Well, yeah, he is a dummy, all right, but that's a whole different issue.
Yes.
Now, to point out one thing, you said trading. He can't be traded. He's injury prone. They're not going to be able to trade him. So that's out of the equation. They're pretty much either going to have to get him back on the court, or they're going to have to eat whatever money they have on his contract. And I guarantee the Pelicans don't want to do that because they're not a major market team.
And by the way, can I just say, and this is probably a selfish and like dickish reason for me to say this, but I want to see him play next year in front of road arenas just because I'm dying to hear what all the heckles are going to come out of this.
Oh, no. He deserves to be heckled by every fan there is. And people are going to say, stop piling on. You're being an asshole. No, we're not. He did it to himself. He absolutely did this to himself.
Good Lord. Have you seen how many... I only wish Karl Malone could have been heckled during the 80s.
I mean, you got one girl, your girlfriend pregnant, and you're going out with a porn star and allegedly without protection.
That's a bad look.
So, and she's got the receipts. That's what was on some of the tweets of them talking back and forth. That was out there. She made that public. She was not afraid. Okay? So, this is a bad look for Zion. Again, he didn't break any laws. Morally, he's cheating. That's a fact. And also this porn star Moriah Mills is saying she hopes she doesn't get pregnant. Is there something we don't know about there either? Did he possibly impregnate another woman?
Yikes.
So, I don't know. We'll leave that one there. Let's go to on the court, shall we? So, get away from all the off-court nonsense. Kyrie Irving contacts LeBron about a potential reunion via the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I heard Paul react. I heard you react. I have no words. I want to laugh at this right now. There is no way in hell that LeBron James is going to the Dallas Mavericks. No way.
If LeBron James goes to the Dallas Mavericks, then that city they just deserve to be the clown show of the NBA. And I'm sorry, but I said this in Game On, but I want to say it again just for the hell of it. What is it with the two teams in that city that are more on the mid side that are getting all of the attention, and yet for soap opera-ish reasons?
I agree with you. I mean...
And LeBron taking his talents down to Big D, the Lone Star State.
Well, okay. I'm going to make the joke. I'm going to make the joke anyway. Kyrie acts like he has a big D, but he doesn't really have one. But my point is... he wish he had a big D. Anyway,
let's just say Kyrie doesn't follow through on a lot of what he says.
That's a fact. Knowing from a Brooklyn Nets fan sitting here that I wouldn't trust Kyrie. You want Kyrie recruiting LeBron James? You trust that guy to do your recruiting for you? By the way, and I heard you guys say it on Game On, I full-heartedly agree with it. Luka, Kyrie, and LeBron on the same court. That's a ball hog's worst nightmare.
Wait. I'm sorry. Do you mean the Dimsdale ball hogs or just any type of ball hog?
Any type of ball hog.
I mean, if Tom was here, I know he'd mention that team.
Even Dale Dimmadome couldn't control the Dallas Mavericks.
Oh, please. Mark Cuban makes Doug Dimmadome seem like Oh, I don't know. Seem like one of the more sane owners that there is.
But there's no way in hell that this happens. I could see the opposite, where LeBron. First of all, LeBron's got a year left with the Lakers, at least from what I understood. And then
Yes.
he's got a player option for 2025, and he did that on purpose, knowing that his son Bronny is going to be in the NBA by 2025, so he's going to go wherever his son goes, and then he'll retire. But if I'm the Mavericks, get the fuck away from Kyrie Irving. Seriously, you can't win. You can't win with Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is the biggest joke in the history of the NBA. Now, I know that's a bold statement, but Kyrie Irving, even though he's got one championship with LeBron in Cleveland, I get it. It was a big deal. You beat the Warriors in that huge stretch where I think it was like 4 straight NBA finals between the Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, if I'm not mistaken.
It was 4.
And
but it seemed like an eternity.
It felt like forever. It felt like a decade, the way those two were always playing against one another. But this is going to end in a nightmare, and Mark Cuban will pay for it. Figuratively and literally end up paying for it. Now, does he care? No, because he just prints money. But why do you want LeBron anyway? Now, I have to put a disclaimer on this opinion because everyone's going to say, well, Nick, you're the LeBron haterade guy. And I'm like, no, morons who watch the NBA. LeBron, first of all, is approaching 40 years old. Do you want a 40-year-old outdated star on your team next to Luka and Kyrie Irving? I'll say it again. It's a ball hog's worst nightmare. They all have to have the ball to dominate. Can you imagine having all 3 on the court at once? Think about that. Luka's a ball-dominant guy. LeBron is obviously a ball-dominant guy, and Kyrie Irving's a ball-dominant guy. I feel bad for the other 8 or 9 guys who are on the roster. They're never going to touch the ball if that happens.
Also, haven't I mentioned before this stat? Have you seen how many players LeBron has made worse in his career?
Now, excuse me, I would debate that statement a little bit because a lot of those guys wanted to play with LeBron in technicality. Now, did he force or get teams forced to trade so those guys could come over to his teams? Yes. But I would debate that phrase partially because when you're with LeBron, your percentages are higher to win a title.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, LeBron also, when you get LeBron, the problem is you don't just acquire a star, or in this case, a washed up star. You also acquire a coach who is going to undermine whoever your coach is. And that coach better put his house up for sale before he knows it, because otherwise LeBron's going to have his ass fired. And he becomes a GM because he's always trying to recruit his buddies, and he's going to force his team to do something idiotic, like, I don't know, pay Tristan Thompson insane contracts. Remember when he did that?
Of course I do. How could I forget that? I mean,
and didn't he try to get them to overpay for Matthew Dellavedova or somebody? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was one of many stupid things that LeBron did. And remember when he had James Jones on his team too every single year?
Well, that was Miami, which Miami.
No, he had him with Cleveland too.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Mostly it was in Miami. Then he went to Cleveland when he went back that one year. But you have to remember something. When you're with LeBron, you have instant loyalty. So you better just expect you're going to play with LeBron the rest of your career if you end up playing with him once. Kevin Love for quite a long period of time. There's so many guys. But when you look at his success rate, which is not great, I think he has 5 titles, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's got 5 rings. Or was it 4? So it's 3 with Miami and 1 with Cleveland?
Nope. 2 with Miami, 1 with Cleveland, and 1 with the Lakers. But
that's right.
We can debate whether that was legit because of the bubble. But now I wouldn't.
I'm on the record saying that I will never take 2020 as a legitimate championship ever.
Fair.
Because everyone played in the same place for the entire rest of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. But long story short, this move will never happen. So we could speculate about LeBron all we want. How many... you can't even count the amount of LeBron rumors on 10 fingers. We've heard like hundreds of rumors of how many players could play with LeBron.
Oh, no, you
James.
can't even count LeBron rumors on your fingers and toes.
That's my point. That this is all a load of smoke. And Mark Cuban could come out and say whatever he wants. It'll never happen. And he knows that if he puts Luka and LeBron and Kyrie together, they might not even make the playoffs. Or actually, let me take a step back. They'll make the playoffs. But LeBron's going to want to be the ball-dominant guy in the playoffs, and then they're going to choke. Yes. All right. Let's move on here. Speaking of choking, Suns and Chris Paul discuss his future with the franchise. Now, there was reports that came out by Chris Haynes, who works for TNT as an NBA insider, that Chris Paul was going to be waived by the Suns. Now, those have kind of been walked back a little bit. Now, I think they have until June 28th, I think is when his contract comes up. And then it's guaranteed at 30 plus million. But if they cut him, they're still on the books for half of it. So like 15 million. Now, Chris Paul has been injury prone the last 4 or 5 years. And that's why his teams are chokers. Because he plays a good series, then he gets hurt in the most important games. Look what happened with the Rockets. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I would just let him go. Eat the 15 million at that point. He's not healthy.
Not even that. He's washed.
That's my point. Like, these guys, everyone wants him because he's CP3. That's why they want him. In the NBA, it's all about brand names. That's what it is. LeBron James is pushing 40, like we just said, and everyone still wants him. Well, let me take that back. Not every team, but a lot of teams do. The Lakers will give up their left nut to keep LeBron James in a Laker uniform. I'm telling you. Just on the ticket sales alone, they would keep LeBron James. But I don't know with Chris Paul. Like, Chris Paul is washed up. Was he a good player in his career? Yes. Was he a consistent player? He just never won a title. Him and Melo should join forces. They both never won a title. They were great players. It was unfortunate. Or I forgot the words you used. You just said it was bad luck. Right?
Yeah. Basically.
So there's not much to make of this.
Can I give you another interesting comparison between the two?
Yeah.
There are alternate universes where they could have had multiple titles.
Absolutely. Agreed.
If, for instance, let's say Melo gets drafted by the Pistons instead of Darko Milicic, and let's say that the NBA actually allowed that trade to the Lakers to happen instead of fall through.
I agree.
You don't think Kobe would have won one more title if he had Chris Paul on his team? I think he would have.
Well, blame the NBA for that one because
No, that's what I said. I said if the NBA allowed that to happen, but the NBA pretty much owned the New Orleans Pelicans, so that's why that trade was voided.
Were they even No, they were the Hornets at the time before they changed to the Pelicans, weren't they?
They were the Hornets, you're right. But same franchise, essentially.
Same franchise, yes. But I just remember at the time the Hornets were such a disaster financially that they had to get out from under Chris Paul's contract. And basically the NBA had controlling ownership, which I hope they get rid of that rule because that was essentially a favoritism move to stop Chris Paul from going to the Lakers.
Yeah, look, as much as a lot of people were excited because it prevented the Lakers to keep going, the whole reality looking back, that was pretty bad. And I think if you ask Chris Paul today, he still probably would have preferred going to the Lakers.
And if I'm not mistaken, he was the president of the Players Association at the time.
I think you're right.
Because he's not anymore. It's now CJ McCollum is now the MBPA president. But just think about that. The guy wants to be traded. I think he's the president of the MBPA. And the NBA, who technically was ownership, put a rejection on a trade to the Lakers.
Yikes.
Can you imagine, like, first of all, that would have meant more money for the sport. Lakers at the top of the mountain. The NBA doesn't want more money? Seriously?
And the funny, you know what the ironic part about that was?
What?
I think the Pelicans horn. I'm going to call them the Pelicans because
That's
Hornets
fine.
are in Charlotte.
That's fine.
The Pelicans essentially would have gotten a better deal had they accepted the Laker trade.
Absolutely correct.
That's the ironic part.
Because the
Clippers deal was horrible for them.
Well, I'm making another bold statement. I know this is revisionist history, as another phrase I like to say, but if Chris Paul ends up in a Laker uniform, I don't think he plays for another team.
I don't disagree with that.
I think that he obviously would have been with Kobe a lot longer. So he's obviously going to stay with Kobe when he was around.
Kobe doesn't even get hurt in 2012 or 2013.
Right, because he had to overplay. Yeah.
Because Kobe was overplaying. They had to play him a lot, and he had to carry them just to get into the playoffs that year.
I guarantee you that...
Because if we forget that was his last good year in the NBA when he carried the Lakers to the playoffs.
I remember that, actually. But if Chris Paul is with the Lakers, I think they win at least 2 more titles. I think if CP3 is with the Lakers, I think. Because, excuse me, Kobe doesn't get worn down. Kobe doesn't get hurt. CP3 takes some of the minutes. They definitely win another title or 2, at least. Can you imagine if the Lakers had won another title or 2 in that time?
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know if Chris Paul, if he's released or he's waived, or the other thing I'm hearing is they might waive him and sign him for a lesser deal, which I always found stupid for whatever reason, but I guess for salary cap reasons. But that Suns team is going to be a nightmare. Between KD, Devin Booker, if they bring CP3 back. Now they're talking about reportedly trading DeAndre Ayton away from the Suns, which I don't understand that. You just signed him.
Well, that would be stupid.
Unless they just want to get out from under the contract, which is insane.
Still. Then what was the point of signing the contract?
Because they had no choice, because they knew that other teams were matching it. And now you have, and I left it out of here because I didn't think we were going to have time for it, but Frank Vogel just signed, a 5-year, really large contract with the Suns, which that's a whole nother move I don't get. Having Frank Vogel, the guy who couldn't succeed as a head coach of the Lakers.
Well, okay, if by not succeed, technically he did win a title, but again, we ostracized that title.
Okay, I'll give you that, because technically he did win a title, but there was really technically no success, except for that 1 year.
He also had to deal with Westbrook.
That's a whole nother time in history.
You know my thoughts on Westbrook, and you know how
I don't like him either. You and I are on the same page on that one. I don't like him either, because he was a constant overshooter, didn't know how to pass. Well, let me take that back. He knew how to pass. He just always, the ball was magnetic to his hands. He had to shoot it all the time.
I'm never going to get that image out of my head when he shot that wide open 3-pointer. He shot that 3-pointer when Kevin Durant was wide open back. And was it 14 or 15? I can't remember.
I think it was 14. I think you're talking about when the 3 were still playing together in OKC.
No, but I know it was when they still had the Thunder Buddies, what I used to call them. You know, if you've seen Ted, I'm
yes,
a reference.
So he got a 5-year, $31 million deal. This guy got another 5-year deal after basically failing in Los Angeles. I can't. And then we talked about this last week, the whole Monty Williams fiasco. But that's for a whole nother day. All right, let's move on to an Adam Silver slip-up without the banner. So Adam Silver came out before Game 1 of the NBA Finals and said, Ja Morant ruling to come after the NBA Finals. Why even mention it? Why not just wait until the NBA Finals are over?
Idiot.
Are you looking for attention? Is that what Adam Silver was going for there?
Oh, definitely.
Because now people are going to say, like, well, since he's ready to announce it, that means he's going to get a year. No. Have we seen have we seen the history of punishment given by Adam Silver?
Nick, I was just about to say,
Yeah.
Tree thinks that the Roger Goodell wheel of discipline is bad. No, it's got nothing on Adam Silver.
I'm telling you right now, and I've said this many times on this podcast, that I think at most he might get 30 games, or maybe. Is it right? No. Does it make sense? No. But Adam Silver's not going to suspend him for the season. He knows that John Morant is a name and a brand. And what does Adam Silver do with names and brands?
He profits off of them and essentially tries to feed his wallets.
So, I don't know. This is not going to end well. But everyone thinks that because he's ready to announce that it's going to be a year. It's not going to be a year. It's never going to be a year. Get the notion of that it was going to be a year suspension out of your head. Because it's never going to happen. And you know what it's going to be?
Slap on the wrist.
That's all it's going to be. Ow, by the way. Oh.
You okay there?
Yeah, I'm good. But, well, I wish they would do that more to John Morant for pulling a gun out twice.
I'm still blown away by the fact that Silver, was all surprised by that happening.
No, he was surprised. I think he was surprised after the second time is when he said, when that whole quote came out, when he was talking to ESPN.
You know what I meant.
The first time, here's what I told Tom when we discussed this incident. One time, I'd be like, all right, you do something stupid, you get one pass. One. But if you do it twice, there's no sympathy, and we can't save you.
Yeah,
Agreed?
You don't even get the 3 strikes, you're out rule.
It's a freaking gun, for crying out loud.
No, exactly.
You could have killed somebody. You know, and not for the reference sake, but Plaxico Burress, anybody? I just gave you bad agita, didn't I? I'm just doing it for the reference sake, so you understand.
No. You're not wrong, but you know how much that memory triggers me as a Giants fan. And I have to say it. You cannot, for the life of me, convince me that the Giants do not repeat as Super Bowl champions if Plaxico does not pull that stunt. You just can't. That was the greatest Giant team of my lifetime.
My point is, why the fuck are you carrying a gun? Why? Usually these guys walk around with security details 7 feet tall. They usually have 3 7-foot-tall bodyguards following them. Why do you need a gun? And the worst part is Instagram Live. Instagram Live. We don't even do that. Now, he's younger than we are, which is kind of scary, by the way. But I think he's 23 or 24 years old. Like, he's a kid. Jeez. I should confirm that just so I'm not giving inaccurate information. But
I think you're right, though, that he's younger than us at the very least.
23 years old. He was born in 1999.
Oh, good Lord. Is
that crazy?
He's younger than my only blood-related sibling.
But that's crazy. He's 23 years old. He's had two gun incidents. And by the way, and I've said this a million times, get rid of that friend. He's not a friend. He's gotten John Morant in trouble twice. This guy is bad news. And Adam Silver, if you don't drop a year suspension, you deserve all the rotten tomatoes thrown at you. You do. Just wait. I'm telling you, Hank, when that news drops, and I'm gonna see it on the wall. It's gonna say, Adam Silver suspends John Morant 30 games.
And we're gonna see that banner up.
Yes. I'm going to save it for when that story comes, but you're going to see an angry Nick come out if I hear 30 game suspension.
I can't wait to see you break the internet with TikTok.
We'll see what happens. All right, let's move on. We got a few more stories here. Let's move over to the NFL. NFL is investigating Colts cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, cornerback and kick returner Isaiah Rodgers for potential gambling violation. Now, what was that thing you said to me before? Gee, why am I not surprised about this?
Yep.
Now, we've seen many gambling violations. We saw the Commanders had a few players. I forgot what the two teams were. It was the Commanders and the Lions, right?
The Lions, yes. That was right before draft day, too, if I remember correctly.
You're right, because they had to deal with all that controversy when it happened. Now,
and then they proceeded to bomb the NFL draft, by the way.
Right. Now, what's so crazy about this whole thing, the NFL has rules, but here's what's so dumb about it. You're allowed to gamble, but, and this is the part that makes sense, don't gamble on NFL games. Seriously. They're allowed to gamble on everything else, they just can't gamble on NFL games. How stupid can you be?
Inconsistent much? Double standard much?
No, but I'm talking about these guys, these NFL guys who are gambling on NFL games when they're not supposed to.
Idiots.
That's what I'm talking about here. And like I was reading the whole story that apparently like it technically was not under his name, it was under his business associate's name. It doesn't matter. You did it. It's your money. And you know what? You know what these leagues are doing now, by the way? They're able to investigate at the casinos whose accounts are what. Why do you think they're doing that?
To prevent gambling from happening.
So these guys think they're indestructible, right?
Ask Calvin Ridley how indestructible he is.
And by the way, I think you and I agree that the NFL was too harsh on his punishment.
Oh, no, absolutely. Like, you're giving him a whole year when there are other guys who've done much worse.
Wink, wink.
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, you and I were thinking the same thing. He should have gotten like 4 or 5 games. That's what he should have gotten. And we would have called it a day, and no one would have made a big deal out of it. But I don't know exactly what the protocol is, but he's going to probably get 5-6 games. Because he gambled on his own team. I mean, it's bad enough you gambled on the NFL games, but you gambled on your own team. Or your business associate with the account gambled on your own team.
Okay, Nick. If he said his business associate did it, and he's the one that owns the business, wait. I just want to, because I mistakenly said something. It's not that he said his business associate did it. They found out that it was his business associate with his money. Now continue. That's still him kind of, sort of, in a way, admitting to breaking the rules. No?
Now, yes, and I have the quote directly here. So, the sportsbook account was opened under the name of an associate of Rodgers. Now listen to this. Approximately 100 bets were placed on the account over an undisclosed amount of money, including on Colts games, which, remember, Isaiah Rodgers is a Colt.
Might not be a Colt for much longer, but yeah.
Well, it depends how much they really value him as a Colts player.
Yeah.
Most of the bets were in the $25 to $50 range. Now listen to this. Although there was at least one low 4-figure bet, which means $1,000 or more. Heh!
Wait. Hold up. I'm sorry. Did I hear that correctly? A low 4-figure bet?
Yeah, that's $1,000 minimum.
Jeez, how much was this guy betting on these games?
Especially if it was on the Colts.
Good Lord, this guy, is a moron.
Now, I don't want to open a can of worms because Tom and I have done this before, but you want to know how you stop the gambling issues?
How?
Stop with the gambling companies.
One could only. That sounds like wishful thinking, unfortunately.
Now, I'm not talking about the fans. The fans and everyone on the outside should be able to do what they want. I'm not talking about taking gambling. First of all, I think gambling is actually good for the sports world because it gives you something to watch, something to... Now, I'm not talking about throwing people's life savings away. Let me be clear about that.
No.
You and I, I'm sure we've done it. I'm looking at like $1 to $5 things. Seriously, that's
yeah.
what
Those are fine. That's fine.
So,
generally, I'm not like one that condones sports betting. You know me, but like, if you're gonna, I prefer the $1 bets as opposed to like the 4 figures. That's a problem.
Those are people, in my opinion, that have gambling issues if they're betting thousands of dollars. And
I'm talking about Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan's a different kind of gambler.
Craig Carton, anybody?
Oh,
gosh. And I don't care. Let him attack me. I could care less. I think Craig Carton's an asshole. But
yes,
I mean, his was more blackjack than anything. And I always will think he's a crook, but that's a whole different issue too. But to get back to this, he's probably going to get at least a 5-6 game suspension. Now, it depends where the gambling was being done, because there's also a rule that you can gamble in sports, but you have to do it outside NFL facilities. I guess because they don't want it like being an enticing thing to other people in the organization. That's why they don't want them doing it in the NFL facilities or the team plane or all that nonsense. But I file this under stupid. That's what I file this under.
Yep.
So, all right, let's move on. We got 2 stories left here. Let's move on into the free agency world here. DeAndre Hopkins. Chiefs, Bills, Giants, Cowboys are all out on the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes. Now, I can give you one specific reason why these teams are out. Cha-ching!
Yep. And there is such thing as a salary cap.
I mean, how much does this guy want? He's not the same guy.
No.
I mean, he got paid by the Cardinals when he went there, but what does this guy think he used? I heard rumors he wants like $10 million. He's not getting $10 million. You know what most of these teams were going to do to convince him? They were going to give him the player minimum. I guarantee you. That's probably what they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the player minimum is this coming season. I'm looking it up as we speak, but one team will overpay him. Oh, $750,000 is the minimum in 2023, which, by the way, is a lot of money. But
So much.
do you see any team? Well, there's one team on here that we need to talk about that's not on this list, but we know why it's on the list.
Mm-hmm.
But the Chiefs, if he took like the minimum, or maybe they gave him like $2 million a year, maybe. Can you imagine DeAndre Hopkins in Kansas City?
Oh my gosh, he'd be like in such a great place with Patrick Mahomes, defending Super Bowl champions.
I mean, with Kelsey and all them, like that would almost be unfair.
And he didn't even have like a star receiver this past year, no?
He didn't. Nope.
Like, because Tyreek Hill went to Miami, and like everyone thought that was going to be something that hurt the Chiefs, but quite the opposite, actually, because if anything, I would say it enabled Patrick Mahomes to like spread the ball around. You know what I mean?
Right. And I don't think he'll have to be a number one in Kansas City. I'm trying to look up their depth chart. So Kadarius Toney, Richie James. Yeah, a lot of their guys are nobodies on the wide receiver core.
Oh, you just named 2 former Giants, quote unquote, legends. Kadarius Toney and Richie James. Richie James being one of those guys that I just always worried about whenever he was fielding punts.
Oh, I was looking up the wrong direction. So you have Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney, and Sky Moore. Those are your 3 top guys. So,
Oh, that's right, because you lost Juju. Juju went to the Patriots.
which I don't understand why he did that. That was a mistake. But
Oh, yeah, the fallen empire.
Patriots are going to be a mystery box. But we all know that the Chiefs are not going to be a mystery box. We know what they're going to be every year. They just need to retool. With Patrick Mahomes there for like the next decade.
As long as Patrick Mahomes is still elite, their window is going to be open for years to come.
Right. So the one team that's not on this list, and the reason we didn't put it on this list is because Tom and I thought it was stupid. I think you're going to think it's very stupid. And I think you know which team we're going to say, right? Do you know what it is? Oh, you want me to say it?
Yes.
The Cleveland Browns?
Yep.
Now, let's not act like we're stupid and we live under a rock. We all know he wants to play with who?
His BFF Deshaun Watson.
Because that's such a great career move.
Said no one ever.
I mean, so I threw this out to Tom. I'll throw this one out to you as well. Say the Browns offer him, because they spent $300 million on Deshaun Watson, so money means nothing to them, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So say the Browns offer him $5 million. They say,
Right.
all right, we'll give you the money. And the Chiefs, the Bills, the Giants, I would throw the Cowboys out because no one wants to play for the Cowboys.
You mean nobody with the brain and nobody who actually cares about winning.
Well, yeah, go ask Jerry Jones about that. Anyway, but say the Chiefs offered him like $1 million. The Bills offered $1 million. The Giants offered $1 million. And the Browns offered him $5 million. We all know where he's going to go. He's going to go to the Browns.
Yep.
God forbid some of these guys took less money because they could earn it on the back end if they win a title. They don't think this. So you're going to take an extra $4 million, but you're not going to win anything. Good job. Why would you play with Deshaun Watson? Can you give me a reason? Because I can't think of one.
Maybe because he still thinks the guy has talent, but I don't really care about that because, I mean, the guy's a total fucking scumbag.
Ethically, it's a problem in every way, shape, or form.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, he's on the backside of his career. He's made plenty of money. I don't think he's really doing this for money. If he's doing this for money, then he shouldn't be in the NFL anymore. But we'll see what happens. All right, one more story. I saved it for last. Mr. Baseball over here.
Oh, yeah. Steven Strasburg being shut down due to severe nerve damage. And is this the end of his career? Now, I don't want to say that Steven Strasburg has been a failure. I mean, I know we talked before about him being like Mark Pryor. I wouldn't go that far because Mark Pryor only had like one really good season before he flamed out due to injuries. I would compare him more to Kerry Wood. And the reason I'd say that is because Strasburg had some historic strikeout performances when he was with the Nationals. And when you really look at his highlights when he was at San Diego State playing for Tony Gwynn, of all people, fun fact, you can see why that guy was hyped up a lot. He had insane stuff. And you also have to remember, the Nationals had, I don't think they were even 5 or 6 years old in existence, because remember, they had just moved from Montreal, and they were still trying to, like, you know, start from scratch, so to speak. So getting a big name pitcher and him having that hype, it makes sense at the time. I know you might not completely agree with that, but
well, he was a guy, and I think you agreed with me somewhat. He was a very overhyped pitcher.
Yeah, I would agree to an extent, but again, looking back, because I remember it very well when he was like called up and when he was such a big prospect. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, the Nats are going to turn it around eventually," and They kind of did in a sense, because remember, he missed that season in 2011 because of Tommy John, and then the year afterwards, they had the best record in baseball, but then they gave him the innings limit. Nick,
right. And, yeah.
I don't know about you, but I honestly think the innings limit kind of ruined him and kind of ruined the Nationals too.
Well, you and I both know well from Yankee history that innings limits don't work, if you know what I mean.
Jabba rules?
Yes. So
I was thinking more along the lines of Matt Harvey, but yes.
Okay, Matt Harvey. Well, if you remember when Jabba came up, it was basically like they had all these weird rules, like that if he pitched one inning, it was a day off. If he pitched 2 innings, it was dude, you're ruining him mentally. And then he got hurt.
Yeah, no. That innings limit in 2012, I am convinced, is what kind of was the downfall of Steven Strasburg. And by the way, side note, this gives me a little bit of a blog idea. Top 10 Hall of Fame careers that were derailed due to injuries, or players that could have been in Hall of Famers but weren't because of injuries.
Mark Pryor.
No, I don't know if I'd put Mark Pryor up there. I'm thinking more along the lines of Nomar Garciaparra and David Wright, and possibly Joe Mauer, depending on how many votes he gets.
That's interesting, because I would throw Mark Pryor, because everyone said Mark Pryor was supposed to be like this big name, and he kept getting hurt.
No, he was, but again, I would say Kerry Wood, because like I said, Mark Pryor only had like 1 or 2 like really good seasons. Kerry Wood had several flashes of greatness, but none were as close to that year where I want to say it was his rookie year, 1998, when he struck out those 20 Astros and pitched what, in my opinion, was the best pitch game of all time. But that's a story for another day. Steven Strasburg was derailed because of that, in my opinion. And I'm also convinced that giving him the innings limit in 2012 cost the Nationals a World Series, because that was a really good Nationals team. That was their first year in the playoffs after with that whole core. That was Bryce Harper's rookie year. They choked Dadley against the Cardinals in Game 5, and they lost in 5. I'm really convinced they at least win that series with Strasburg. I don't know if they beat the Giants in the next round, because the Giants were pretty damn good that year. Let's not forget that.
I mean, the one thing I will say, though, is looking back when the Nationals were really thriving, Bryce Harper with the big hype, Steven Strasburg, the big hype, look what happened to the two of them.
Well, at least one of them won a ring.
Well, yeah, Bryce Harper did, but
no.
I mean, not Bryce Harper. Excuse me, Strasburg did. But did Strasburg pitch the year that they won, or no?
Yes, he won the World Series MVP.
I'm just so used to him being injured. I don't remember.
Well, it's funny. You actually could make the case that Juan Soto should have been the MVP, but I thought Strasburg's performance in that World Series kept the Nationals afloat.
Was that the Max Scherzer year also at the trade deadline?
Yeah, Scherzer won the World Series too that year. Scherzer ended up, and he had a game where I think he struck out like 10 Pirates in his rookie year. Scherzer essentially like one-upped every one of his great pitching performances with the Nationals.
I mean, everywhere he went, Max Scherzer proved that he could pitch. He was one of those guys. I mean, I was very shocked when he ended up in a Nationals uniform. And wasn't that the year also that he was pitching hurt out of the bullpen during the World Series also?
Yes.
Like, I remember he was like, his back was out, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, he could barely stand up and walk, but he came out of the bullpen and was heroic out of the bullpen.
That's a type of pitcher that I wish the Yankees had over the years.
Me too. I can't even think of a guy that really was like that, to be honest. Like, that was I don't know, maybe Messina, but that's the only guy I can really think of. But
actually, no, I've got a few. Pedro Martinez would have done that. I could see the unit doing that.
Don't you want to talk about names that caused me PTSD? It's Randy Johnson in New York.
I'm talking prime unit. I'm not talking about Randy Johnson, Yankees unit. He was washed at that point. I could see. Actually, even though this gives me PTSD, Kurt Schilling.
Oi. Prime Kurt Schilling, yes.
I still want that sock investigated. I wonder if that was ketchup.
I was going to say Arizona Kurt Schilling and Boston Kurt Schilling were prime.
Philly's Kurt Schilling too.
Yes and no. Yeah.
Yes. He won the MVP in 1993 in the NLCS, and he had those. He had some big strikeout years with the Phillies.
But
Granted, he was on some bad teams because they were in the midst of rebuilds, but still.
Well, that's what I was going to say with Kerry Wood. That Kerry Wood just unfortunately was with the Cubs all those years that they never won anything. Can you imagine if he was on another team? He probably would have won a lot.
2003, he came close.
But I'm just saying in general, like if he was on another team, he probably would have won a ring or two. If I had to take a guess for the way he was pitching.
Maybe, but yeah. Back to Strasburg.
Yeah,
he's still. Considering that he still posted solid numbers with the Nationals even when he was healthy and he still had that World Series MVP, like, I can't say it was a career that was a failure, but it is a career where you wonder what might have been.
I agree with you. I think, like I said, he was very overhyped. Good pitcher, had a lot of talent, but he also, if I'm not mistaken, he blew his arm out at one point. Didn't he also, Strasburg?
Yeah.
So, and that's a common thing now because everyone wants to throw 100 miles an hour that they blow their elbow out or they blow their arm out or they're having UCL tears or like their shoulders. Like pitchers are getting hurt more today than they were back then. So this Steven Strasburg was ahead of the injury curve before it happened today. Yeah, even though that's a horrible thing to say about somebody, but
yeah.
But $245 million. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think the Nationals had insurance on that contract.
The problem is they had two choices of which star they were going to keep. It was either him or Anthony Rendon. Rendon had injury problems with the Angels, so they would have been. So, in the words of, can I do my Joe Pesci impersonation for this?
Yes.
You getting fucked one way or the other.
That was good.
That was what he said in My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
It's either me or them. You're getting fucked one way or the other.
By the way, so it says here, Nationals don't have any disability insurance on the contract. The Nationals haven't received any financial relief from Strasburg's contract despite the injury issues that have prevented him from pitching since June 9th, 2022. It's coming up on a year.
Good Lord. Also, not for nothing, but isn't that Max Scherzer contract that they gave out pretty much going to be Bobby Bonilla-like?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, isn't he going to get a good amount of deferred payments? Not saying it wasn't worth it, because, I mean, you win a World Series with him, and that city hadn't seen a title since, probably Silent Cal was in office.
By the way, the Nationals have $15 million each July 1st from 2022 to 2028. That's deferred money. So they owe him $15 million a year.
Who, Scherzer or Strasburg?
They owe Scherzer. They don't have disability insurance, like I said on Strasburg, so they're going to have to pay him out.
Jeez.
So they could have gotten out of a year's worth of salary, or even the insurance could have kicked in, but no insurance. Hey, Yogi, you got that insurance?
Oh, gosh, I remember Yogi and the Aflac ads.
It won't hurt to miss work. You miss work, or whatever that dumb saying is.
Yeah, no, it was. Are you talking about the one where he was at the barbershop?
Yes. Huh? I love the Affleck reaction to him. But that just about does it for episode 187 of Empty the Bench. Make sure you follow us on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow us across the Empty the Bench podcast network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and subscribe, youtube.com/ETB Network. Make sure you follow him on Game On at Game On ETB. We have some news we'll be announcing in the next couple weeks, as well as we're moving some shows around. And a new show, by the way, talking about a certain sport that Hank likes to talk about a lot. which will be coming
I
very
mean, look
soon.
like Jersey for all we know.
So I pretty much gave it away. Yes, there is a baseball show. We'll announce the date probably in a week or two. We're just working out all the kinks and making sure we're all set up. But for now,
And in fact, that's why I hung up my Don Mattingly 1995 jersey in the background.
Good jersey, by the way. Unfortunate that he didn't win, but good jersey. But yeah, youtube.com/GTB Network. Make sure you just hit the big red button and subscribe. We're approaching 400 subscribers on the YouTube channel. And then again, like we said, Game On ETB for Twitter and Facebook. Game On _ETB for Instagram. Like I said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you follow us on the audio platforms as well. Acast, iHeart, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Odyssey. We're on every single audio platform. So if you don't want to look at our ugly faces, you can go listen to it. So I don't know. Anything left you want to say, Hank, before we go?
No, man, I had a lot of fun. It's not too often that I come on for an Empty the Bench appearance, but you know, every now and then I'll probably crash your party, and this was a blast.
Let's just say I think you had fun finishing the sandwiches today. I had to make him laugh one more time.
I mean, I think that the Hankies broken counter would have probably I don't know. I stopped counting after 7.
But that'll do it for episode 187. Tom will be back next week. Johnny will be back for the next episode of Game On. So all our shows will be back together next week. Look at that. So that'll do it. So he's Hank Indictor. I'm Nick Morgasen. See you next week for episode 188. Good night, everybody.